Hello there, and welcome to my very first upload. Uh, for YouTube purposes, my name is Tragic, and I'll tell you a little bit about myself before we begin. I've always favorited the cryptid encounter type of stories: Skinwalker, Wendigo, Dogman, Bigfoot, that type of stuff. Uh, I've had quite a few of the kind of true stories, like uh, gas station encounters and social media stuff. I've had some of that happen to me, and that I don't know. I don't really like. I wouldn't really like narrating on that, but I most certainly would if I had gotten a support base and they requested it, of course. I'm at this point. I just hope everyone likes my content because I'd like to contribute back to the scary storytelling community. It's always kept my mind off things when my anxiety is peaking, and it's always something I've wanted to kind of get my hands into anyway. I've always fancied myself some kind of creator for YouTube. I've just never really had the resources to begin. And now I have a decent microphone because I know microphone quality is a huge thing. And yeah, I hope everyone likes it. And we'll begin now. Yi Naldushi is watching me. My grandmother on my mother's side has always been very superstitious, for lack of a better word. She's not religious, but she does believe in a lot of paranormal stuff. Her mother was full-blooded Navajo and her father was Irish. Either way, she'd never been anywhere east of Montana, and she grew up in Nevada. One year, when I was in grade school, we went to visit her. Most of the visit was pretty uneventful, typical boring old people stuff. Except she always kept her curtains drawn shut, and would always peek out the window when someone asked what she was doing. She would simply reply, "Ye no do she is watching me." This went on for nearly the entire visit, until a few days before we were due to leave. My grandma and my then baby brother, he's 19 now, were in the front yard that evening, planting flowers, when all of a sudden, my grandmother starts shouting, "Insert little brother's name here, and get away from that creature. It's not safe." Of course, being in Nevada, we all assumed that my brother had found a scorpion or a rattlesnake, so we all ran outside to see my grandmother clutching my little brother and shaking in terror against the side of the house. Standing out in the yard was a large black Great Dane-sized dog. It was staring at my grandmother with an intensity I've never seen before. It looked up at us, gave us a little huff, and bounded off. I don't remember if it moved unusually fast or not, but I do remember that it had really deep yellow eyes. When my mother asked my grandmother what had happened, she kept repeating, "The Yin Aldushi has found me. The Yin Aldushi has found me." She moved a couple weeks after that. They ran away on their back legs. So this happened about 12 years ago. My family owns a farm in the heart of an Indian reservation. One winter I was home for Christmas taking care of the farm while my parents were away Christmas shopping. As I was home by myself, way late in the night, and I hear all our cows freaking out. I knew it had to be the wild dogs that were rampant in the area. So I throw on some boots, grab a shotgun, load it up, and head out to the field. This was a perfect scenario for a horror movie. It was cloudy out, but it was also a full moon, and it was breaking through the clouds just right to light up all the snow. I ran out into the middle of the field, and just in time I see two dogs that were standing up facing each other and fighting. I think, perfect, a 2-for-1. So I pump a shell into the chamber of Mr. 12 gauge, and then it happened. The two dogs heard the rack, they both stopped, they looked over at me and ran away. On their back legs. Immediately I froze, and every ghost story about skinwalkers and all the other native legends I grew up with flew through my mind. Keep in mind that I'm a white guy, and up until then those were all just boogeyman stories the native kids like to tell us to scare us. That night, they became real to me. It had a dog's body, but with human hands and feet. I was spending a month with my cousins at my grandma's house. It was August and my cousins' ages ranged from 10 to 15, and I was the oldest, being 15. I was staying with a 10, 13, and 14-year-old. We stayed up telling scary stories often, but one night a few weeks in, we decided to make a campfire out back. My grandma's house is in a rural suburb. The neighbors aren't too far when you're driving down the road to her house, but in her backyard it's thick forest with man-made paths through it. Each house is on a hill, so only part of the basement was actually underground. That isn't important until later, though. So we're towards the east side of her yard, in a smallish patch of open land. You couldn't see the neighboring yards from there, and there was probably 3/4 of a mile to each side of us that belonged to my grandma. It was maybe 11 at night, and we were playing Truth or Dare after telling scary stories, and my 14-year-old cousin dared me and the 13-year-old to go walk through the paths for 10 minutes or so. I said yes right away, as I wasn't easily scared and I was rather level-headed. But my younger cousin was a bit more hesitant. We didn't bring a flashlight because it wasn't pitch dark yet, and we could see enough to not die. We were walking through the paths for about 5 minutes and could barely see the fire through the trees when we decided to turn. In the middle of the path was a large dog-like creature, hunched over with its front hands an inch from the ground. What I remember most was how its eyes were so fucking bright white, and it was humanoid dog shape with a human-like head, but a dog-like body, but human hands and feet. It looked right at us, and I know I was paralyzed with fear as it dashed away from the opposite side of us towards a creek that ran through the yard. Eventually my cousin and I screamed bloody effing murder, and the other cousins and my grandma ran to us. I don't remember much here because I was really disoriented and couldn't think properly, but I did wake up in bed, so I assumed that I was brought into the house. All the kids slept in the basement in a big room with a sliding glass doors to outside, as the room was on the side that didn't go underground. My bed was pressed against a big glass window, and I could see my cousins playing outside down below. The house is in Michigan, so it gets slightly chilly even in the end of August, and there was a slight breeze, so I put on a jacket and ran to join them outside, skipping breakfast, not wanting to miss out on anything fun. When I got down, I could tell they weren't playing, but rather running to get my grandma. Her dogs, both of them, were dead, ripped up. That night we went to bed early. I woke up at maybe 2 in the morning because I felt something hit my head. My cousins were all sitting on the double bed opposite me on the other side of the room. There was 1 bunk bed and 2 double beds. The double beds, for me and my 14-year-old cousin, they were being quiet and staring at me. The 13-year-old nodded his head towards the window. I froze. They all looked afraid. I turned my head slightly to the side and I saw a really messed up looking face pressed to the window with gaping eyes looking down at me. I screamed so fucking loud and it bolted. My grandma called the police after I told her what happened and they found nothing. I went home after that and I've never been there during the night again. Thanks again for your patience. Now, as I stated in the beginning of this video, it is my very first upload. I have some practice with audio processing before all my clips are of the same stable quality, as I do pause between paragraphs once in a while. And I'm editing out all my mouse clicks and stuff. I'm trying to make this as pleasurable in an auditory sense as possible. So thank you again for your patience on that. So yeah, I'll be practicing my audio processing. I'll try to get a stable distance from the microphone because I'm kind of moving around a lot while I'm recording this, and I'll have an email link down in the description below where subscribers can send me their own personal creepy stories, and you can request being anonymous. I'll do everything that the run-of-the-mill channels are doing right now. And yeah, I just want to get your stories out to the world, so go ahead and send those to me. And I'll go ahead and put the link to the website down below where I found these videos. I can't find anyone to credit besides the webpage, so that's what I'm going to do this time. But of course, personal stories will be credited. 2 usernames, and 90% of the time you're going to want to stay anonymous. So, yeah, I'll credit your username if you wanted me to even do that. But, yeah, thank you again for your patience. Go ahead and hit subscribe, ding the bell, and I'll catch you next time. I'm hoping to upload very regularly. And have a good night.